Welcome to First Parish in Bedford. Welcome to this sacred time of darkness and silence, traditional music, and ancient story. Tonight's service is based on the Christian Good Friday Tenebrae service. This week in the Christian liturgical week is Holy Week, the end of the season of Lent and the last week of the life of Jesus of Nazareth. As recounted in the Christian scripture of the Gospels, it is the week of the Last Supper, of Jesus' arrest and trial, and of his crucifixion and death on what is known as Good Friday. All of these things leading up to the miracle of the resurrection on Easter Sunday. The Good Friday service from which our service tonight draws its inspiration is also known as a Tenebrae service. The word tenebrae means darkness or shadows in Latin. And originally, Tenebrae services happened over the 3 days before Easter in the Roman Catholic Church. The story of Jesus' last days were told over the course of these services while the candles were slowly extinguished, leaving worshipers in the dark at the end. In our service tonight, we will use passages from the Gospels to tell the story of Jesus' death and listen to our choir sing songs of lament. There will also be a modern reading and a brief reflection, and after each reading, we will extinguish a candle, bringing us closer to a time of darkness. If this is your first Tenebrae service, this may feel a little unfamiliar or even uncomfortable. In our tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we hold hope close. We nurture possibility. We believe in the power of love to transform the world in surprising ways as Easter morning follows Good Friday. But tonight, on this night, there is no rush and no pressure to find the good news in the story that we're about to hear. Tonight is intended to be a time for us all to become a little closer, a little more intimate, a little more present to the spaces of darkness in our lives and in our world. It is a time to be present to our sorrow, our anger, our hopelessness, our fear. It is a time to be present to the fragility, the uncertainty, even the injustice of life. The Tenebrae service is a time not to turn away or turn aside from the pain of the world and the pain in our hearts, and it is not a time to solve these things either. It is simply a time to be present. It is a time for us to be together in the darkness. At the close of our worship tonight, we will dim the lights entirely and invite you into a ritual of laying down stones as a way of mourning. If you did not bring a stone with you tonight, there are some stones available at the chancel. You will also be able to light a candle. It is traditional for the service to close in silence. You are invited to remain as long as you like after the closing words and the postlude, but please respect the quiet of the space. And now we light our chalice to begin our service as a reminder that the promises of this community are as alive and vital and necessary in hard times as in hopeful ones.
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that, if it were possible, this hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want."
He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough! The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. Look, my betrayer is at hand."
Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of those who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a rebel? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching the scriptures. You did not arrest me, but let the scriptures be fulfilled." All of them deserted him and fled.
As soon as it was morning, the chief priest held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered them, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you." But Jesus made no further reply, so that Pilate was amazed.
Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters, and they called together the whole cohort, and they clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him.
After mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, and they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide which each should take.
It was 9:00 in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." Land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3:00, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Allah, Allah, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last.
There were also women looking on from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the younger and of Joseph and Salome, who followed him when he was in Galilee and ministered to him. And there were many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem. When evening had come, and since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself waiting expectantly for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate wondered if he were already dead, and summoning the centurion, asked him whether he had been dead for some time. When he learned from the centurion that he was dead, he granted the body to Joseph. Then Joseph bought a linen cloth, and taking down the body, wrapped it in the linen cloth and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where the body was laid.
The Wind, One Brilliant Day by Antonio Machado, translated by Robert Bly. The wind, one brilliant day, called to my soul with an odor of jasmine. In return for the odor of my jasmine, I'd like all the odor of your roses. I have no roses. All the flowers in my garden are dead. Well then, I'll take the withered petals and the yellow leaves and the waters of the fountain. The wind left, and I wept. And I said to myself, what have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you?
Unitarian Universalism is famously a hopeful religion. We talk more readily about love and reason and hope than we do about loss or anger violence or despair. And so our tradition is sometimes critiqued as being an Easter religion. That is to say, as a religion that we are all Easter, no Good Friday. We are a religion that is in a hurry to skip over the hard parts of the story, skip over the pain of what happened to Jesus on Friday so we can get to the part on Sunday where love wins out, where life is renewed, where the murdered come back to life, where hope triumphs, the part about rejoicing. And indeed, many Unitarian Universalist churches do not have Good Friday services, but some do, and First Parish does. And it is good that we have this time to tarry together in the realm of sorrows and shadows, because the pain of the world is real. Violence in the world is real. Loss is real. Our own imperfection is real. And we need a way to wrestle with all of these things. We need a way to ask, what have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you? We need rituals where we can safely encounter that question. And this service is one such ritual. In the Christian tradition, when you read the gospel, it is an exercise to locate yourself in the story. With whom do you identify? And the one rule for Christians is, whoever you are in the story, it is not Jesus. Jesus is Jesus. So where do you see yourself in the tapestry of experience and emotion? There are people in this story tonight reeling from the betrayal of a trusted friend or a colleague. Maybe you have had your trust betrayed at some time in your life by a person, by an institution, by an ideal. There are people shocked by sudden loss, a hope, a plan, a future that has suddenly collapsed. And maybe there has been a time in your life when it felt like the floor had suddenly opened beneath your feet, when the future has dramatically changed in the snap of a finger, by a death, by cancer, by a job loss, by the end of a relationship. In the story tonight, there are marginalized people experiencing police violence. There are people afraid of harm that might befall themselves, their family, their community. Maybe you have felt marginalized, vulnerable, targeted. Maybe you have had a time in your life when you did not feel safe in your home or your body or your neighborhood. There's a mother grieving for her child. There are friends grieving for their friends. Death happens, and we grieve. And it's an overstatement to say that in our tradition, the liberal religious tradition, that we do not talk about such things as these. What we do not do is offer easy answers. We don't say everything happens for a reason. We don't say it's all part of a greater plan. We don't say when God closes a door, he opens a window. And we don't say it will all be okay in the end, because sometimes things are not okay. What we do say is, we will be with you. We will be with you. We say we will be present to one another even in the hardest moments. We say love and compassion are the practices we will return to again and again. We say we can be honest about our pain. We say kindness is a blessing. We say we need each other. But there's more than just pain and loss in the story that we heard tonight. There is also injustice, which is a reality in our world today as ever. In the story tonight, there is violence, there is state abuse, there is occupation, war, oppression. And in the story, in the moment when it happens, we see people responding in many different ways, right? There are soldiers just following orders. There are people running from the scene, terrified. There is the Roman authority choosing order and security above all other values. There are curious people looking on from the sidelines, not sure what is going on, not sure that it is their business. There are people who will hear about it tomorrow as news, as another awful thing that happened somewhere in the world. There are people who will say, whatever it was, I'm sure the authorities handled it. There is someone who tries to resist even violently, futilely. There are people looking on in horror who feel powerless to do anything about it in the moment that it happens. And it is an overstatement to say that our tradition, the liberal religious tradition, does not talk about such things as these. We do focus on things like reason and love and the hope for a better future, but our forebears also understood very well that sometimes things fall apart. They understood our capacity for selfishness, for short-sightedness. They understood our ability to hurt one another and ourselves. Founders like William Ellery Channing talked about it all the time. So, for that matter, did later luminaries like Jack Mendelson, to name an example closer to home and heart. What the Unitarians refuse to do is to say that there is anything inevitable about this. Unlike their Calvinist predecessors, our tradition refuses to say that humans are innately evil. They refuse the idea of original sin. They refuse to say that the world is innately evil, that there's nothing for it but to wait for our reward in some other heaven. Our tradition, the way of liberal religion, lifts up instead human freedom and our capacity for choice, which is liberating and also difficult in its own way, and if anything, ours is a harder path to follow. Because the liberal tradition says of the world, it did not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way, and so we are constantly confronted with this question, which is ours to wrestle with, which we cannot evade. What have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you? What have we done with the garden that is our earth? What have we done with the garden of the human spirit, with the garden of world community? What have we done, each of us singularly, with the garden of our own heart? And the answer sometimes is, we have done our best. And sometimes it is, we have not done our best. Sometimes we have done all that we could. Sometimes we have not done all that we could. Sometimes we are brave, and sometimes we are not as brave as we could be. Nothing about this separates us from our inherent worth and dignity. Nothing about this separates us from the possibility of love. All of it is to say it is sometimes hard, this thing being human. What can we do? What will we do? We say we will stick together. We say we will sing together when we are afraid. We say I will be courageous when you cannot be, and you will be courageous when I cannot be. We say we can be honest about the ways in which we hurt each other. We say love and compassion are the practices we will return to again and again. We say hope is a blessing. We say we need each other. And we will keep asking, not in blame, not in shame, but because we have chosen this responsibility, we will keep asking, what have we done with the garden that was entrusted to us? And in the darkness, and in the silence, and in the stillness, we will sit with our doubts, and we will plant and nurture our seeds of compassion and hope. We now move into a time of silence in which you are invited to take a stone and place it on the steps in front of the chancel in memory of a loss that is in your heart today. This could be someone who has died this year or years ago, or it could be a different kind of loss that is not death but is causing grief. We take this practice from the Jewish tradition of placing stones on graves with deep respect to those who still practice this ancient tradition. We will place our stones in silence. You may also light a candle for those you hold in your hearts. If you did not bring a stone, there are some stones on the chancel in this basket here for you to use. Our silence will end with our closing words and the postlude. You may remain as long as you like after the postlude, but please respect the quiet of the space. Our closing words are from the poem Decisions by Boris Novak. Between two words, choose the quieter one. Between word and silence, choose listening. Between two books, choose the dustier one. Between the earth and sky, choose a bird. Between two animals, choose the one who needs you more. Between two children, choose both. Between the lesser and the bigger evil, choose neither. Between hope and despair, choose hope. It will be harder to bear. Go in peace.